and this may have explained that Russian media source. One of their concerns is that those F-16s can carry a
Mm.
nuclear missile, nuclear tipped missile, and therefore it eliminates any warning time for Russia, for Moscow, that they could be attacked. So, uh, you know, I this there's no sign that this war is going to get turned off. The only way it's going to get turned off is when Russia finishes destroying the Ukrainian army.
Hey guys, welcome back to Capital Cosm. Today, I am welcoming back Larry Johnson on the show. We touched on a number of topics last week, but I wanted to bring him back on to kind of walk us through some of the stuff that we kind of left on the table, namely some stuff regarding the Secret Service analysis in terms of the Trump assassination attempt, as well as what his thoughts are on the de-dollarization process currently occurring, where he sees that going, how he sees that unfolding over time. And then as well, there's been some developments on the Ukraine front, as well as in terms of the Venezuelan elections. Lots of stuff to dig into. These markets are political, so I think it's important to get a geopolitical take every now and then on the channel, just to kind of make sure that our investments are aligned geopolitically with what's going on in the world. And with that said, Larry, I appreciate you giving us another dose of your time.
Well, thank you for the invitation. Hopefully, it's worth your while.
No, definitely. The last one we had came to a much positive acclaim. So let's just dive right in, Larry. Just broadly speaking, it's been about a week since we last spoke. What's changed in the world in the last week? What's front and center for you?
Waiting for Godot, the play. Only this time we're waiting for Iran or waiting for Israel. Iran has vowed that it's going to retaliate and hit Israel for because of Israel's role in the assassination of the Hamas Politburo chief, Ismail Haniyeh. And everyone, we've had a number of predictions. The CIA predicted, the Israelis were going to hit last Monday. Well, Monday came and went, and nothing happened. Oh, no, it's going to be Tuesday. Tuesday came and went, and nothing happened. Meanwhile, there have been flights from Moscow going into Tehran, and these are military transports, believed to be carrying electronic warfare items, air defense systems, the S-400 in particular, which is a pretty sophisticated air defense system capable of shooting down ballistic missiles, as well as some electronic warfare capabilities. The Iranians and Russians don't have a history of being friends, but they have developed a fairly close relationship over the last 7, 8 years. It started really about 2015 into 2016, and then in 2019 they actually executed joint military training exercises with China as well. So China, Russia, and Iran have had a pretty good relationship and a cooperative relationship on the military front. So what's the importance of this? I believe what Russia has done by deploying the S-400 air defense system, they are stationing those around high-value targets in Iran that Israel would be likely to hit, and they're staffing them. They're being manned by Russian personnel. And Russia sends a very clear message to both Tel Aviv and to Washington, D.C. Our personnel are here if Israel attacks, particularly using nukes, then this will be viewed as an attack on Russia. And then we're off to the races of world war. Now, I think that this move by Russia has actually helped delay anything, but I don't think Iran's going to be deterred from striking back. They feel that their honor has been savaged, and they're going to do it. Now, on the Israeli side, the Israelis they're living in a fantasy world. They've really lost touch with reality because they've convinced themselves, and I could show you emails from Some names people that you may have heard of in the financial world who are pretty prominent and have columns in a variety of online uh, sites saying things like, "Oh, Israel's going to hit Iran and wipe them out in 3 days." And one of the people that I've been in touch with is, close friends with some very senior Israeli military officials. And those Israelis are telling him they're going to use nukes. They're going to launch a preemptive strike against Iran and Hezbollah, and they're going to use nukes. So, I'm watching all that go on, and yet, with each passing day, Iran hasn't responded yet. And I think one of the reasons it hasn't is it's building up and preparing for the possible next step. That if it attacks, either it's prepared to deal with a preemptive strike, and then it's going to be prepared to deal with an Israeli counterstrike. Because I think they fully anticipate that if they hit Israel, they're going to hit a military base probably, or an intelligence facility. Iran will, when it retaliates, that Israel will then probably go nuclear, literally. Now, the danger with this, and let's bring it into an economic dimension, Iran has the ability to shut down oil coming out of the Persian Gulf. And it's not, they're right there. They don't have to travel 1,000 miles. And they can literally fire missiles. They've got missiles easily that can reach across the Persian Gulf to the Gulf states, to Saudi Arabia and Kuwait, United Arab Emirates, and take out their oil fields, take out their production facilities. So again, this thing's got some real global implications to it. The problem is in the Israeli mindset, they really think that all they have to do is fly their planes over Iran, drop some bombs, and boy, that'll take care of it, and that'll shut those Iranians up. I mean, it's like, guys, it's talking to Israel. You've had 10 months to defeat Hamas. How's that going?
Is there a counterforce within the Israeli government that's a little more dovish?
Yes and no. They're not really in control. Yeah, you've got a few sane voices, but they're not the majority. So there are a few in the military, but that have pushed back. But there was reported the other day that Bibi Netanyahu went on a tirade against the chief of the Israeli Defense Force and the head of Mossad, calling them a bunch of cowards and weaklings and defeatists. So yeah, there's some problems in Israel, and they've been talking a lot about preemption, but they haven't moved yet. And the only thing I can see that's really weighing in that is now that Russia is involved in a much closer military relationship with Iran. I think both Israel and Washington are looking and saying, we need to be careful here.
Gotcha. No, I want to take it back to the Russian personnel over there in Iran and kind of tie it into what's going on in Ukraine recently.
Yeah.
We did have a surprise attack on Kursk by the Ukrainians. Walk us through what happened there. It does seem to have taken the Russians by surprise. Kursk was a very pivotal moment in World War II, for example. Do the Ukrainians have a shot at moving forward past Kursk?
No, they haven't even gotten to Kursk. They've crossed the border. There's a village called Shajad. It's maybe even 3-4 kilometers inside the border. They haven't even gotten past that. The first 2 days, the Russians killed more than 600 Ukrainian soldiers. So basically, about 40% of the force that came across was killed. The armor, the Bradleys, they were destroyed. I mean, this was this was a senseless military operation. What the Ukrainians apparently are trying to do is create a propaganda, a PR victory, so that they can say, "Oh, we're going to try to force the Russians to the negotiating table now," because they'll want to get their territory back. Russians got plenty of troops. Number one, the Russians have air power. Ukraine does not. The Russians outnumber them in terms of drones, artillery, tanks, armored fighting vehicles, and most importantly, manpower. And with any kind of, if you're going to launch an offensive, particularly with armor, well, they're going to need gas. Okay, so let's say you advance 20 kilometers. You don't just pull over to the gas station and fill up, go into the Exxon or Chevron and say, hey, fill her up. No, there's got to be a logistics chain to be able to supply that. Ukraine doesn't have that. They no longer have that capability. This is what's called to sustain the combat force moving forward. It's not just the fuel, it's the food, it's more importantly the ammunition. Because anybody that's ever, that even shoots guns like a rifle or a pistol knows you can load up a magazine with 30 rounds of ammunition, 5.56, and you can shoot that stuff off in 30 seconds, and then you got to reload. So I guess they surprised the Russians in the sense that it was the United States was monitoring the front and noticed that the Russians had cleared the minefields out in this area, because the Russians are getting ready to come in. They're going to launch an invasion into Ukraine from that location. At least they were planning to, apparently. But the Ukraine struck through. They got through some border guards, and there are reports that they even did sort of like Battle of the Bulge stuff from World War II. They dressed up in Russian uniforms to fool the border guards. So the border guards thought that these were Russian troops coming at them initially. It doesn't change anything strategically. If anything, it further convinces the Russians that they've got to completely destroy the Ukrainians and destroy them militarily. But they're losing troops and vehicles that Ukraine can't afford to lose. They don't have a unlimited supply. I've even seen some analysts suggest this is going to perhaps become a real breaking point, because while this activity is going on in Kursk, down in the Donbass, the Russians are moving. They're moving on average about 2 to 3 kilometers a day to the west, advancing. They're taking one village after another, one key stronghold after another, and Ukrainians can't stop them. So this is the war's winding down, even though people look at it and say, "Oh, that's crazy." Just remember the Nazis were defeated. I mean, they had lost the war after the Battle of Kursk. The war didn't come to end though for another 8 months, 9 months. So I guess that was July of 44. So they didn't wrap it up until May 45. And the Germans were still fighting intensely at the end, but they were beaten. They had no way to win. And that's the situation for Ukraine. Yeah, Ukraine may pull off an attack here or there, but they still lack air power, even though we gave them F-16s. You haven't seen those F-16s anywhere over the battlefield where the fighting's going on, because they know they're going to get shot down.
There is a story that came out, I believe today or yesterday, and it was referring to American-made tactical nukes within Ukraine. Did you hear about this?
Yeah, I haven't heard that. I would really discount that
because it came from Russian state media.
Well,
so I wanted to get your take on that.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like you believe that story,
No.
but even so, like, do you? How soon do you see the normalization of, at the very minimum, tactical nukes being used on the battlefield, at least in Russia, Ukraine? We've already kind of alluded to it on the Middle Eastern front, but how do you see it on the Eastern European front?
I see it's a measure of last resort. Russia's not in a position where they're at a last resort, where they're facing an existential threat. They're dealing with what they perceived as an existential threat with Ukraine forging its alliance with NATO and then becoming a proxy for NATO. Um, but, and it's ironic, we're talking about tactical nukes today, August 9th. Today's the date that the United States bombed Nagasaki
Mm.
in World War II, and the second use of an atomic weapon. Fortunately, those are the only two times that those weapons have been used. They are terrifying because of the massive level of destruction it can cause. But even if you're standing and you get hit with a conventional bomb, doesn't matter whether you've been hit with a tactical nuke or with a conventional bomb, it still will end your life and destroy the immediate surroundings. So it's one of those things that, though, if used, it's going to lead beyond tactical. Once you go beyond tactical, then you go strategic. I don't think there's any way to keep it contained,
Mm.
even though there are some people talking about, oh yeah, all we have to do is set this bomb off. It's like the Israelis talking about using tactical nukes in Lebanon. Okay, if they use those nukes, it's going to create some radioactive fallout. I don't know about you. I'm not real good at predicting the weather and which way the wind's going to blow. And once that wind, depending on where it goes, will affect different states, it's going to create an international reaction and pushback against Israel that be more than just some stern words and shunning. I mean, it will represent crossing a line that you can't go back across, and it'll set off. It really will probably could ignite World War III.
What about is there a possibility that things settle down and like you've got two big powder kegs, one in Eastern Europe, another one in the Middle East. What are the chances that if one powder keg blows up, then the other one's probably going to blow up as well?
Yeah.
What's the chances of the opposite? What's kind of like your base case here, Larry?
Uh, I I don't see any way that this doesn't end with an escalation in the violence. I don't see. Let's start with Ukraine. There is no sign yet that the United States or any of the NATO countries are willing to put an end to this. They continue to send money to the regime running Kiev, in a regime that celebrates Nazis, celebrates National Socialism and the icons that were produced by Hitler and his like. They've closed down opposition political parties. They've shut down opposition media. And the graft and corruption is endemic in that society. And yet, with all that going on, the United States and Europe keep sending money and weapons. So we're facilitating that. So that war it's going to end with a military victory by Russia, but it will also represent a military defeat for NATO. And right now, I believe the F-16s that are being provided to Ukraine are based in Romania, at airfields in Romania. Up to this point, those F-16s have not carried out any attacks on Russian positions. Just let me ask you to imagine that there were Russian planes supplied to Mexico, and they were there to patrol the border, and that those planes came across and attacked U.S. military facilities or U.S. troops in the United States. Do you think the United States would respond, retaliate, and attack those airfields in Mexico?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Bet your ass we would. So why do we think that we can launch attacks from Romania against Russian positions in the Donbass, which Russia claims as its own, and that Russia is not going to retaliate by hitting Romania? So that it remains to be seen if they're going to be stupid enough to put those F-16s up and move them towards that territory. Because the other thing for the Russians, and this may have explained that Russian media source, one of their concerns is that those F-16s can carry a nuclear tipped missile, and therefore it eliminates any warning time for Russia, for Moscow, that they could be attacked. So, there's no sign that this war is going to get turned off. The only way it's going to get turned off is when Russia finishes destroying the Ukrainian army. And, that could come pretty quick, but, it could drag on until December, January. I don't think it's going to go through the winter, because with all the electricity basically shut off in Ukraine, their thermal power plants gone, people are going to be freezing to death. And the cities are going to become uninhabitable. And then the soldiers, likewise, the ability to sustain them in the field is going to dry up. But with Israel, you've got Hezbollah and the Houthis. They're not sitting on their hands. Hezbollah has been launching 5 to 10 rocket missile attacks a day into Israel, into northern Israel, on Israeli military positions and into the kibbutzim. And they forced the Israeli, about 80 to 100,000 Israelis to flee to the south. So it's, we can't pretend that, if Israel and Hezbollah start fighting, well, they're already fighting. Israel's likewise sending in airstrikes routinely, daily, into Lebanon, hitting spots in southern Lebanon, south of the Litani River, as well as up into Beirut and over into Syria. So, Israel's not sitting on its hands either. And the Houthis, the report came out yesterday that a joint commando team of Israelis and Blackwater, from the company used to be known as Blackwater, I think it's called She now. They tried to infiltrate Yemen. I think the teams, their purpose was to patrol, to try to find these mobile launchers that the United States has failed to destroy. And they were ambushed coming into Yemen, 70 of them killed. And so some of them were American citizens. So, the fighting is just going to continue, and the wild card is whether it's going to be Israel that strikes first or Iran that strikes first. But Iran will strike. They will hit Israel, and they're not just going to do a token gesture. They're going to hit and destroy. It's not going to be a massive attack. They're not going to try to wipe out Israel, but they're going to hit a military base or an intelligence center. They're going to hit one specific target probably to destroy it, and just tell the Israelis, you killed Hosnia. We've exacted our revenge. Stop it there, or we can, we'll keep fighting. We'll see.
Right. In the last episode, you kind of alluded to the fact of this de-dollarization process, i.e. the dollar losing its value. I kind of wanted to pick your brain a little bit more on that topic. Didn't really get much of a chance last time. You mentioned kind of like the complacency of finance people who just don't see much urgency in terms of what's going on with the dollar. Can you expand on that for a bit? With the BRICS alliance coming into fruition and all this kind of stuff.
Now, what we're witnessing with BRICS is the creation of a new international economic order. Not just economic, it's political, it's military. The order that we've been accustomed to, that we still put our faith in, that was created at the end of World War II, from the United Nations to the Bretton Woods Agreement, which was, that became moot, after the Vietnam War, because we emptied we got so in debt in this country. Uh, the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank. Uh, so the importance of the U.S. dollar is that the U.S. dollar became the de facto reserve currency after the gold standard was ended under Nixon in 72, 73. And so, for the last 50 years, dollars, man, were king. And you could always tell, always one indicator, look at what the drug traffickers are. What are the drug cartels in Mexico, Colombia, Turkey, Afghanistan? What are they wanting to hold?
Dollars.
Yeah, dollars, or they always have. There was a period where they started going to the euro. So I'd use them as the canary in the mine shaft to say, okay, what are they going to start doing? Because you've got the number of countries that are wanting to do business in their own currency, and BRICS is trying to come up with, I've heard it's sort of a gold base. You use your own currency, but it'll be gold based. So something approximating a gold standard. Now I know there are a lot of financial experts in the United States that, oh, they'll never want to do that. The U.S. dollar is so secure. Uh, all we got to do is look at how much the national debt is relative to the GDP in the United States. And, our debt is great. What we're paying out is greater than what we're bringing in, basically. I mean, to put it, in simple terms, I don't know how long that can be sustained. And one of the things sustaining it is faith in the United States. Well, do you think if Kamala Harris is president, that's going to people around the world going, oh, thank God we got a solid person in the White House. And they're already worried about Donald Trump. So what we're looking at, the United States is in a period where the confidence in our political leadership is at an all-time low around the world. And that might not matter, except the role of using the dollar depends in part upon people believe, it's like religious faith. They have faith that the United States is not going to do something crazy, have faith that the United States is going to protect that dollar. They're not going to seize your accounts unless you're Russia. Then we talk about seizing Russian accounts. So these the Brazil, China, Russia, India, South Africa, they've made pretty significant progress, and the countries are lining up to join BRICS, the global South, as it's called. But really, what we're seeing that these countries that have most of the world's population and a significant number of the world's resources, and particularly the productive capability in terms of factory production, the goods that are produced and then sold in the United States, produced in places like Vietnam, like Indonesia, like Malaysia, not only China. So Asia is a big player in that, and as well as in Central and South America. And candidly, a lot of the world is just sick and tired of the bullshit out of the United States. We're a bunch of bullies, because our approach to these other countries is, you do what we want, or we're going to go to war with you, or we're going to impose economic sanctions on you, or we're going to conduct a color revolution to overthrow you. We may do all of that. And the countries go, no, wait a second. I don't want to be in that kind of relationship. They don't get treated that way by Russia or China. The Russians and Chinese treat these other countries like they're adults. And they respect that they've got, what they do in their country is their business. It's not Russia or China's to go in and meddle.
Hey guys, quick pause. Looking for a new stock trading app, or simply a place to diversify your capital? With all of the crazy things happening in the world today, maybe it's a good idea not to have your eggs in one basket, whether that be a bank account or a stock brokerage account. This is where Moomoo comes in. I was able to partner with them and secure you guys an exclusive offer for viewers of this channel. Now, if you sign up with them, you get a special 8.1% APY on uninvested cash. And on top of that, 20 free stocks. Yes, it was 15 free stocks, but I've been able to up the ante a little bit, get you an additional 5 stocks here for a grand total of 20 free stocks. So basically, you deposit $100, you get 8 free stocks. And if you deposit $1,000, you get the remaining 12 free stocks for a grand total of 20 free stocks. This offer won't be around for long. It expires on August 31st, so be sure to take advantage of it. Claim the offer. Now, this is an exclusive offer. You're not going to find this on their website, so you've got to click the link down below to redeem it. And with that said, I will let you get back to the video. Yeah, well, it's definitely a tumultuous time. A place where is very tumultuous right now is Venezuela, which just had its elections. There's calls from the United States and other places as well. The president of Argentina is calling them, is calling for, is basically casting away the authenticity of their elections. And Maduro won, but he seems to be getting a lot of flack from the Western sphere. What's going on there with Venezuela?
Yeah, the United States trying to preach to Venezuela about electoral integrity is like Heidi Fleiss, the former madam who was running brothels in New York City, preaching on sexual morality and preaching against promiscuity. I mean, come on. Who are we? At least the Venezuelans, they actually have an actual record that can show who voted. I mean, they've got an audit trail for the votes. We still can't get that results out of friggin' Georgia. And I'm not talking Georgia next to Russia. I'm talking Atlanta, Georgia. This is a contrived intelligence attempt to overthrow the government of Maduro. Do I think Maduro is a bit of a thug and a tyrant? Yeah. But he's not my president. I've got my own thugs and tyrants to worry about in this country. FBI raids the home of Scott Ritter the other day for being a foreign agent. While Joe Biden's son is out selling his father all over the world, making millions. And so it's we got the kind of corrupt double standard here, and yet we're worried about Venezuela. The only reason we give two damns about Venezuela, it's called oil. The West wants to control Venezuela's oil. If we can't control that oil, we can't control Venezuela. So the fact of the matter is, Maduro won a majority of the vote. He got 51%. Now, normally in these dictatorially run countries, like go back to Ceausescu in Romania, back during the bad old days of the Cold War, he'd get 95% of the vote. Hey, I want boy that really liked me. So, if Maduro was cheating, at least he cheated in a smart way. He got 51, almost 52% of the vote. Now, there's a good number of Venezuelans that hate Maduro, but what was being touted is instead of this, the woman who was the power behind this opposition movement, they put up some guy who looked like he had the mental capacity of Joe Biden to be the Venezuelan president, and that's who the United States is saying it recognizes. It's going to fail. The United States started under Trump. And it's continued under Biden with the CIA, demonstrating it can no longer do what it used to do of trying to overthrow the government of Venezuela. I mean, the irony of this is, I know back when I was at the CIA in the 1980s, the president of Venezuela had been a CIA asset. I mean, he was on the books as a CIA asset, getting paid and doing our bidding. Now he's long dead, so we can talk about it. But the United States got accustomed to running these other countries, and it'd be one thing to run these other countries if we could run our own damn country. But good God, we've got a financial system that is fragile. We've got criminal activity that is out of control in certain areas of the country. And we're locked in this delusion, pretending, hey man, everything's really good. Boy, the economy's strong, jobs are great, life couldn't be better. So this thing in Venezuela, I mean, it's going nowhere. Javier Milei, the president of Argentina, busy trying to curry favor with the United States. Well, we'll see if his experiment to gut the public sector in Argentina works out. I mean, that would be a major accomplishment, but he'd be well advised, I think, to mind his own business and stay at home. That's what I think. The world would be a lot better if we'd all just sort of mind our own business, take care of our own homes, our own property, and then just like you live with your neighbors on your street, you don't go over and trash your neighbor's yard. You don't go over and screw your neighbor's wife. Keep to yourself. Be a good neighbor. But that's apparently too difficult a thing right now for the United States to do.
Well, you did mention Trump. There was a assassination attempt on Trump's life about a month ago now.
Yeah.
I know you said you had some data you wanted to share with us in the last episode, so I want to give you the floor on that. What are some inconsistencies and some strange happenings that you took away from the Trump assassination attempt?
There's been a lot of, I'll call it disinformation out there. The most prominent one is there are more than one shooter. There were two shooters. No, there were three shooters. Some of them, four shooters. And I'm going, okay, so this is this well-organized plot to kill Trump. And your plan is to come up with the four worst shooters in the world where they can't hit a damn thing. That's your plan? Might want to rethink that. This was the attempt on Trump's life, I believe, was facilitated by the leadership of the Secret Service and the Department of Justice. In other words, people at senior levels were allowing things to happen that shouldn't have been allowed to happen. Just imagine that you command a squadron of B-2 bombers, and you've got you go and you select a pilot who's used to flying a Piper Cub, a propeller-driven aircraft. And you say, hey, I'm going to put you in as the pilot of the B-2. And you let him get in there and you show him how to start the plane up and let him take off, and then they crash. Whose fault was that? Was it the fault of the pilot?
The guy who put him in place.
The guy put him in place. So this woman and it's not that she's a woman, but that's part of the problem, that she's one of these diversity, equity, inequality selectees. Huh?
Cheadle?
I don't know what her name was. No. That Cheadle. No, Cheadle was the head of Secret Service. I'm talking the Secret Service head of that was sent out to be in charge of Trump's detail. She's incompetent. She's fat. She doesn't know how to properly holster a gun, and they did not do the proper advance work. So you got to ask, why would the Secret Service put somebody in charge of Donald Trump's detail that is not competent has never done it before, number one, apparently, and failed to do all the significant things that have to be done, such as identify the perimeter that has to be protected, identify who's going to be where doing what, make sure you've got a communications plan in place so that everybody can coordinate, and you've got the coordinating with the command center, that you've got the snipers in place, and that they have been able to be on scene days in advance, not just one day in advance. They were only notified the prior day. They didn't have a time to do a proper their own advanced work that's required. So you got to ask, why do you have so many mistakes in the management of this thing and the organization of it, that this was a I would say this was allowed to happen. And it is not unheard of for someone like Crooks to have been set up, encouraged to do it. We still don't have a full knowledge about his prior contacts, who he was in touch with. And so, I think this was a directed attempt on Donald Trump's life that went beyond Crooks. But the audio evidence clearly shows that Crooks fired 8 shots, and the Secret Service counter sniper teams fired 2 shots. It was the last shot that killed Crooks. And so, that there was some claiming they could see muzzle flashes out of one of the windows in that building. Crooks is on top of the building, and on the first floor, there's a window. They thought it was muzzle flash. Turns out it was a reflection of the sun. And more importantly, if you're in that window looking out, you can't see Trump because there were bleachers in the way. The only way, by Crooks being on top of the building, he had a line of sight over the bleachers where he could see Trump and shoot at him.
Okay. Well, I think we're wrapping up on time here, Larry. Anything else you want to talk about before we close things out?
Hey, let's hope we're still around next week, that the things don't get crazy with nukes getting out of control. But I fully anticipate Iran's going to strike back, and then it's going to be the question: what's Israel going to do?
Okay. Well, if you guys enjoyed this show, be sure to comment down below. Go, Larry, go. Also, like the channel, subscribe to like the video, subscribe to the channel so we can keep getting more guests like Larry on the show. And yeah, Larry, where can people find you?
I'm at sonar21.com. SONAR21.com.
Excellent. We'll have all that linked down below. Be sure to check it out, guys. And with that said, I will catch you in the next episode. Bye, y'all.